PowerPoint is a slide-based presentation program run by Microsoft Word. PowerPoints are used for various reasons, for example, for business use, teaching, tutorials, and many more. Users can create graphs, animations, and add visual effects along with text to present using PowerPoint. Students are mostly targeted with this method of teaching. The use of new technology allows students to view the slides online on smartphones and tablets. This makes it accessible at any time and allows students to engage with the slides along with the lecturer, which this can result in good learning. Words mean printed text or spoken text. They can be presented as speech that people listen to through earphones or speakers. Drawings, charts, graphs, maps, photos, animations and videos all helps to engage with active learning. This is because both words and pictures mentally creates a pictorial and verbal connection to the audience or viewer. The multimedia principle simply states that individuals learn, retain, and transfer information better when the instructional environment involves words and pictures rather than words alone.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Our main focus will be on the contiguity principle, placing printed words near corresponding graphics. On-screen words should be placed near the parts of the on-screen graphics to which they refer, meaning that the graphics and printed words need to be placed near each other on the screen. It is suggested by Clark and Mayer that people learn more better when corresponding printed words and graphic are placed close to one another on the screen, or when spoken words and graphics are presented at the same time. We asked university students a few questions about their thoughts on PowerPoints in relation to the continuity principle.
I think that the PowerPoint presentation will be able to keep me engaged and interested, as if the lecturer is only speaking, then I may not be engaged, but having the text on the screen, I can, go back to the text and just read it whenever I need more information.
I think PowerPoint presentations really support my learning. It's a really good method of teaching and learning because there is a PowerPoint presentation up there for you to look at, and you can, go through the bullet points, go through the slides. And whereas if there was no PowerPoint presentation, there would just be you listening to the lecturer talk, and when there's someone talking to you for 2 hours, you can't really focus for 2 hours. You just sort of, lose track, and you can't really keep up. And you can always go back to the slide. So it's, very...
I think that an ineffective PowerPoint presentation is one where there's way too much text, and the text is also like small printed, which if I'm sitting all the way in the back, I may not be able to read it properly. Also, when there's too much bullet points, there is too much information. So rather having text where the lecturer is talking and expanding on each single bullet points that he puts on.
No, I don't take notes in the lecture, or I do sometimes. I tend to record the lecture, and I tend to listen to the audio back and take notes. But in the lecture, I sometimes do take notes, not of what's put on the PowerPoint, but try to get some of the stuff that the lecture's saying.
For me, what makes presentations ineffective is when there's too much text on the screen. or when somebody has a lot of text on the screen and they're just reading every single word off the screen. And you start to ask yourself when you're watching these presentations, why am I even here? Why don't I just download them and watch them at home? Or why don't I just read the book about this subject instead of hearing somebody read at a much slower pace than I can read off the slides?
Something that is colourless, just black and white. If a speaker just says what is on the PowerPoint slide, if the lecturer or the speaker just carries on just droning on, if the PowerPoint goes too fast or too slow, that can hinder a child's learning or hinder learning.
Yeah, I do take notes from presentations. I think that it's easier because then when all the bullet points and the points that are on the presentation and whatever the lecturer is saying, I can write both of them together, because then what the lecturer is saying about the notes on the PowerPoint presentation will be better note-taking process.
No, I don't take notes in the lecture, or I do sometimes. I tend to record the lecture, and I tend to listen to the audio back and take notes. But in the lecture, I sometimes do take notes, not of what's put on the PowerPoint, but try to get some of the stuff that the lecture's saying.
Mixing graphics and words is incredibly important, and the graphics, they really need to be relevant to the words that you're showing. So you may have a picture of a boat when you're talking about sheep. It doesn't really make any sense. If you have pictures that are relevant to the words, then it's going to help people understand what concepts you're trying to get across. Also, it seems to be shown that when you mix your words and your pictures up, you kind of integrate the two of them together. That's much more effective than having pictures and words completely separated from each other.
I agree with it somewhat, because it highlights important points. However, if you don't explain those points, then it can be ineffective in some ways.
By having words on a slide next to an image helps, but the text needs to be relevant to the image. An example of this can be a graph without any explanation or labels stating what it is or what it represents. Without those labels, it's difficult to understand what it's meant to represent or what it means.
We asked 10 students to participate in our experiment. Experiment 1. The first slide that was shown was of a flower that was labelled A to D with the names on the side of each letter. This was representing text afar from the image. Experiment 2. The slide was of the flower labelled with each arrow, this time pointing towards the text. This represented the contiguity principle. The image was close to the text. We recorded our results and decided to display this using a bar chart. 9 out of 10 said yes, that the contiguity principle was quite effective. We looked at the result and came to the conclusion that students preferred having the image close to the text.